Commander Eric Wallace stood at the large viewing window of the Galactic Council space station. Earth had joined the galactic community 50 years ago, but humans were still treated as newcomers. The massive chamber behind him buzzed with the voices of 17 different alien species. Some floated in special atmosphere bubbles, others walked on many legs, and a few didn't seem to have bodies at all. Eric straightened his blue United Earth Defense Force uniform. After 12 years as Earth's military attaché to the Council, he still felt out of place. The aliens found humans fascinating but dangerous. They studied humanity like scientists watching unpredictable animals. "Commander Wallace, the session will begin shortly," said a soft voice behind him. Eric turned to see Zairi, one of the few council members who treated humans with respect. Her blue skin shimmered under the lights, and her 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Thank you, Counselor," Eric replied with a small bow. "I heard we're welcoming a new species today." Zairi's upper eyes narrowed. "Yes, the Vracs. They were discovered only 20 years ago, yet they're already being offered full membership." 20 years? Eric tried to keep the surprise from his voice. Earth had been an observer for 50 years, repeatedly denied full membership. They must be very impressive. "They are accommodating," Zairi said carefully. "The Council values predictability, Commander." Before Eric could ask what she meant, a chime rang through the chamber. Everyone moved to their assigned places. Eric sat in the observer section, behind the council members but ahead of the general audience. The head counselor, a tall insect-like being named Voxnar, raised his 4 upper limbs for silence. "Today we welcome the representatives of the Vracs, collective to their first official council session," he announced. The main doors opened and a group of 7 beings entered. The Vracs were humanoid but taller and thinner than most humans. Their skin was pale gray and they had no hair. Their faces showed little expression as they bowed to the council. "We are honored to join this gathering of wisdom," said their leader, in perfect galactic standard. "The Vracs seek only peace and cooperation." Eric watched as the council members nodded approvingly. The Vracs seemed almost too perfect. Respectful, calm, and agreeable. Nothing like humans, who argued passionately about everything from trade agreements to cultural exchange programs. After the formal welcome, the council moved on to other business. Eric paid close attention to a debate about trade routes near Earth space. Earth had requested permission to expand its patrol zone due to recent unexplained ship disappearances, but several council members opposed it. "Earth forces are too reactive," said Councillor Marek, a reptilian being who often opposed human initiatives. "We cannot have trigger-happy humans patrolling these sensitive areas." Eric bit his tongue. Earth's military had followed council protocols perfectly for decades, yet they were still described as dangerous and unpredictable. When the session ended 3 hours later, Eric's head hurt from holding back his frustration. He was heading to his quarters when someone called his name. "Commander Wallace, do you have a moment?" A human woman with curly brown hair and bright eyes hurried toward him. She wore the blue and green uniform of the Earth Xenocultural Institute. "Dr. Samantha Reed," she said, extending her hand. "I'm studying interspecies diplomatic relations. I saw you during the session and hope to get your perspective." Eric shook her hand. "Nice to meet another human face. What would you like to—" "No? Let's walk," Samantha suggested, nodding toward a less crowded corridor. "Did you notice how quickly the Vracs were accepted? Earth has been waiting 5 decades for what they got in 20 years. "I noticed," Eric said. "Counselor Zairi said they're accommodating." Samantha laughed softly. "That's diplomatic speak for they don't argue with anything the council says, unlike us troublesome humans." They reached a small garden area designed for oxygen breathers to relax. Earth plants grew alongside alien vegetation in a peaceful blend. "I have a theory," Samantha said, sitting on a bench. "The council isn't afraid of our technology or even our military. They're afraid of our adaptability and our emotions." Eric sat beside her. "What do you mean?" "Most species in the council evolved in stable environments. Change happened slowly. Humans evolved on a planet with rapidly changing conditions. We had to adapt quickly, or die." Samantha leaned forward. And our emotions, they're powerful drivers. We feel deeply, love strongly, and yes, fight fiercely when threatened. You think they fear that? I think they don't understand it, and people fear what they don't understand. Before Eric could respond, a shadow fell across them. A tall, thin alien with gray-blue skin and silver eyes stood there. Commander Wallace, Dr. Reed, the alien said. I am Clarthul, senior advisor to the Council. Eric stood quickly. Clarthul rarely spoke directly to observers. Senior advisor, this is an honor. Clarthul made a small gesture with his three-fingered hand. I overheard your conversation. Fascinating theories, Doctor. Samantha stood as, well, just professional observations, advisor. Indeed. Clarthul's silver eyes studied them both. I would suggest that your kind should practice more patience. The galaxy is no place for your emotions. The way he said emotions made it sound like a disease. Our emotions are part of who we are, Eric said carefully. They drive our creativity, our compassion, and yes, sometimes our caution. Caution, Clarthul repeated. An interesting choice of words from a species known for its impulsive nature. He bowed slightly. Good evening to you both. They watched him glide away with unsettling grace. Well, that was strange, Samantha said. Senior. Advisors don't usually bother with observer species representatives. Maybe your theory has some merit, Eric replied. Later that night, as Eric returned to his quarters, his communication device beeped with an encrypted message from Earth Command. He hurried inside and secured his room before opening it. The message was brief but alarming. Intelligence suggests the Vracs are not an independent species but biological constructs created by an unknown entity called the Nyx. Purpose unclear. Exercise extreme caution. Further information required. Eric sat heavily in his chair. If this was true, why was the Council so eager to welcome the Vracs? Did they know? And if not, what was the Nyx planning? He needed to talk to Samantha again. As a xenoanthropologist, she might have insights he lacked, but he would have to be careful. If the Nyx had agents on the station, drawing attention could be dangerous. Eric looked out his window at the stars. Earth seemed very far away suddenly, and he had a sinking feeling that the galaxy was about to become a much more dangerous place, especially for humans who wouldn't simply sit quietly and do as they were told. 6 months had passed since Eric received the encrypted message about the Vracs. During that time, 5 small Council worlds had reported devastating attacks. Each time, the pattern was the same. All communication suddenly stopped, and when investigation teams arrived, they found everyone dead and all surveillance systems disabled. Eric sat in a small cafe on the diplomatic level of the Council station. The place served food and drinks from dozens of worlds, including real coffee from Earth. He sipped his coffee while reviewing reports on his tablet. You look tired, said Samantha, as she slid into the seat across from him. Over the past months, she had become his closest ally on the station. 3 hours of listening to the Council blame space pirates for these attacks. Eric sighed. They refused to consider any other possibility. Samantha lowered her voice. Any update from Earth about the Nyx? Nothing concrete, just more questions. Eric rubbed his eyes. But Earth Command sent another request for defensive technology sharing. The Council will discuss it today. Let me guess. They'll deny it again. Eric nodded. The Council had consistently refused to share advanced weapons technology with Earth, claiming humans weren't ready for such power. The cafe's door opened, and 3 Vracs entered. They moved with identical perfect posture, their faces blank. One looked directly at Eric and Samantha before all 3 sat at a table across the room. They give me the creeps, Samantha whispered. Have you noticed they never eat in public? They take food to their quarters but never consume it where others can see. Add it to the list of strange behaviors. Eric finished his coffee. I'd better go. The Council session starts in 20 minutes. As Eric predicted, the Council denied Earth's request for defensive technology. Elder Zyri asked to speak with him privately after the session. Commander, I wish to explain, she said once they were alone in her office. With respect, Counselor, this is the 6th request the Council has denied, Eric said. Meanwhile, these attacks continue to spread. Zyrie's 4 eyes blinked nervously. The Council cannot risk giving weapons to those who might use them. Impulsively. Impulsively? Earth has followed every Council regulation for 50 years. Yes, but your species... Zyrie paused. Your history shows a pattern of using technology for destruction. So does the history of every species in the Council, Eric argued. The difference is humans admit our mistakes and try to learn from them. Zyrie looked away. There are concerns about human unpredictability. Eric leaned forward. Counselor, something is attacking Council worlds. Whatever it is leaves no survivors. Don't you think some unpredictability might be useful against an enemy that seems to know exactly how the Council will respond? Before Zyrie could answer, her communication device chimed. She looked at it, and her blue skin paled several shades. Another attack, she whispered. Praxis Colony. Over 20,000 lives. Far from the Council station, Captain Olivia Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, Earth's most advanced spacecraft. Though impressive by human standards, the Defiant was considered primitive by Council races. What they didn't know was that Earth had incorporated some reverse-engineered alien technology that the Council would never have approved. Captain, we're picking up that energy signal again, said Lieutenant Paul Jackson from the sensor station. Olivia moved to his console. Same pattern as before? Yes, ma'am. It appeared near Jupiter's orbit, then vanished. For 2 weeks, the Defiant had been patrolling the edge of human space after reports of strange energy readings. Earth Command suspected these might be connected to the attacks on Council worlds. Plot a course to the last known location, Olivia ordered. The Defiant arrived at Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The ice-covered moon housed a research outpost with 30 scientists studying the ocean beneath the surface. Captain, the outpost isn't responding to hails, Lieutenant Jackson reported. Olivia felt a chill. Scan for life signs. I'm detecting 1 human biosignature. Very weak. Prepare a rescue team. Full environmental suits and weapons, Olivia ordered. Olivia led the team herself. They found the outpost in ruins. Equipment was smashed, and the walls were covered with strange burn marks. Most disturbing were the bodies. Not just dead, but drained somehow, as if something had pulled the very life out of them. They found the lone survivor in a sealed maintenance closet. Dr. Alan Foster was barely conscious, his skin gray and his eyes wild with fear. Shadow beings, he mumbled as they carried him to the shuttle. They came through the walls, like they weren't solid. They fed on us. Back on the Defiant, the medical team worked to stabilize Dr. Foster. Olivia sent an urgent message to Earth Command. Europa outpost destroyed. Evidence matches Council world attacks. Survivor mentions shadow beings that phased through solid matter. Request immediate instructions. The reply came within an hour. Return to Earth with survivor and all evidence immediately. Maintain communications blackout. Do not inform Council. At the next Council session, Eric was shocked when the Vrax ambassador proposed a new mutual defense pact. The agreement would require all member species to place their military forces under Council oversight, effectively giving the Council control over Earth's defenses. When Eric objected, the Vrax representative fixed him with an empty stare. Perhaps you misunderstand your position here. You are guests in this galaxy. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably at the thinly veiled threat, but none spoke up. That evening, Eric met Samantha in the secure room they had found for private conversations. He told her about the Vrax proposal and Dr. Foster's rescue. So the attacks have reached our solar system, Samantha said gravely. And now the Vrax want control of our military. This can't be coincidence. I agree, but we need proof of the connection. Eric paced the small room. I've been searching the Council archives for any mention of the Nix, but there's nothing. Maybe we're looking in the wrong place, Samantha suggested. The official archives are carefully curated, but I have access to the xenoanthropology database. It contains cultural records, myths, stories from thousands of worlds. She began typing on her tablet. After several minutes, she gasped. "Eric, look at this. It's an ancient text from the Zinthar civilization. They went extinct about 3,000 years ago." The screen showed symbols that the translation program converted to text. The shadow ones came with false faces. They spoke of peace while preparing for harvest. They feed on fear and despair. They cannot be stopped once invited in. Eric read it twice. False faces like biological constructs. The Zinthar civilization was completely wiped out, Samantha said. No survivors, no explanation. The council classified it as a natural disaster. Or they covered it up, Eric said. We need to warn Earth. If the Nix have reached our solar system and now the Vracs are trying to take control of our defenses, it's already beginning, Samantha finished. The harvest. Their eyes met in shared understanding. Humanity was in danger, and the council either didn't know or didn't care. Either way, Earth would need to prepare for what was coming. Alone. The emergency council meeting was called 3 days after the Europa attack. Eric had spent those days gathering evidence linking the Vracs to the mysterious attacks. Samantha had found more historical references to the shadow beings in ancient texts, all describing the same pattern. They came with friendly faces, then fed on fear and life itself. As Eric entered the Grand Council chamber, he noticed something different. Security had been increased, and many of the usual staff had been replaced by Vracs. The 7 Vracs representatives sat together, their gray faces showing no emotion. This meeting will address the recent attacks on Council worlds, announced Head, Councillor Voxnar. Earth's representative has requested time to present evidence. Eric walked to the center of the chamber. He had rehearsed this carefully with Samantha. They needed to convince the Council of the danger without revealing everything they knew. Honorable Council members, Eric began. Earth has analyzed the attack patterns and found disturbing similarities. Each attacked world had recently welcomed Vracs advisors. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Vracs remained perfectly still. Furthermore, Eric continued, displaying images on the main screen. Our scientists have identified an unusual energy signature at each attack site. This same signature was detected when Vracs ships entered our solar system. The lead Vracs representative stood. These accusations are baseless. Earth is known for its paranoia and aggression. Perhaps they are responsible for these attacks and seek to blame others. Several council members nodded in agreement. Eric felt his frustration rising but kept his voice calm. We have sensor data showing the energy pattern at every attack site, including our own research station on Europa. He transferred the data to the council system. This is not paranoia. This is evidence. Elder Zyri studied the data carefully. This deserves investigation. I propose we delay voting on the Mutual Defense Pact until— There is no need for delay, interrupted the Vracs leader. These attacks prove the galaxy needs unified defense. The human evidence is circumstantial at best. The council debated for hours. Eric presented everything they had, but the council seemed reluctant to believe humans over the seemingly peaceful Vracs. When the vote came, only Zyri and 2 others sided with Earth. The Mutual Defense Pact was approved, with Earth being the only dissenting voice. The pact will take effect immediately, announced Voxnar. All member species will share defensive resources under council oversight. Earth refuses to participate, Eric stated firmly. We will defend our own territory. Your membership status does not permit refusal, said the Vracs leader. Earth will comply or face sanctions. As Eric left the chamber, he felt eyes watching him. He needed to warn Earth Command immediately, but something told him the Vracs would be monitoring all communications. That night, Eric met Samantha in their secure room. The vote went exactly as the Vracs wanted, he told her. Once this pact is implemented, they'll have access to every defense system in council space. It's happening faster than we thought, Samantha replied. I've been translating more of the ancient texts. The Nix aren't just killers. They feed on emotions, especially fear and despair. The attacks aren't random, they're farming. Before Eric could respond, the station's alarms blared. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Multiple unauthorized ships detected, announced the station AI. Security breach on levels 3 through 7. Eric tried his communication device. It's jammed. They hurried to the door but stopped when they heard strange sounds in the corridor, a wet sliding noise and odd clicking. Back door, whispered Samantha, pointing to the maintenance access at the rear of the room. They slipped into the narrow service passage just as the main door opened. Through a small crack, Eric saw something enter, not of Vrax, but a dark, shifting form that seemed to waver between solid and gas. It moved with terrible purpose, scanning the room with senses he couldn't comprehend. Eric and Samantha crawled through the narrow passage until they reached a junction. Station-wide screams echoed through the ventilation system. We need to reach the communication center, Eric said. We have to warn Earth. They navigated through maintenance tunnels, occasionally glimpsing the horror unfolding in the station. The dark beings, the Nyx, Eric presumed, were everywhere. Some still wore their Vrax disguises, while others had shed them to reveal their true nature. They seemed to absorb life itself from their victims, leaving behind dried husks. Near the communication center, they found Elder Zyri hiding in a storage closet. Her blue skin was pale and one of her 4 eyes was damaged. Commander Wallace, she gasped. They are everywhere. The council chamber. Everyone is dead or taken. We need to send a warning, Eric said. Can you help us access the emergency beacon? Zyri nodded weakly. I should have listened to you sooner. We knew about the Nyx. Our ancestors encountered them millennia ago. We thought we could negotiate with them. You knew? Samantha couldn't hide her shock. And you still denied us defensive technology? We feared your species. Potential for violence more than their actual violence, Zyri confessed. A terrible mistake. With Zyri's access codes, they reached the communication center. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Eric worked quickly to activate the emergency beacon while Samantha stood guard. This is Commander Eric Wallace of Earth. The Galactic Council has fallen to an entity known as the Nyx. They disguise themselves as the Vrax. All Council worlds are under attack. The Nyx feed on fear and life energy. They can phase through solid matter. Send this to Earth Command immediately. Just as he finished the transmission, the doors burst open. 3 Vrax entered, but their bodies were changing, their gray skin melting away to reveal shifting dark forms underneath. Run! Eric shouted, grabbing a fallen security officer's weapon. He fired at the ceiling, causing debris to fall between them and the Nyx. They fled through another maintenance tunnel. Zyri struggled to keep up, her breathing labored. The escape pods, she gasped. Level 2, Section 9. They half-carried Zyri through the chaos. The station was dying around them, systems failing as the Nyx spread through every level. At the escape pod bay, they found most pods already launched. Only 2 remained. As they rushed toward them, a dark form emerged from the wall. It was Clarthul, or what had once been him. His body rippled with darkness, only his eyes remaining recognizable. Humans, he said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Always interfering, always fighting. Your emotions make you unpredictable and delicious. A tendril of darkness shot from his form toward Samantha. Eric pushed her aside and fired his weapon directly at Clarthul. The energy blast passed through him, but the Nyx recoiled momentarily. Get to the pod, Eric shouted, continuing to fire. Samantha helped Zyri into one pod while Eric backed toward the other, keeping the Nyx at bay with continuous fire. As the pods launched, Eric saw more dark forms flooding into the bay. The last thing he saw through the viewport was the council station, once the proud center of galactic governance, now a feeding ground for ancient horrors that should have remained in darkness. His pod's communication system crackled to life. Eric, can you hear me? It was Samantha. I'm here, setting course for Earth. Do you think our warning got through? Eric looked at the stars ahead. I don't know, but Earth needs to prepare for war, a kind of war the galaxy hasn't seen in thousands of years. Captain Olivia Martinez stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform. The massive screen showed feeds from across the solar system. Red warning signals flashed from Mars Colony, the Jupiter stations, and 3 other human, Settlements. The Nix attacks had begun less than 6 hours after Eric's warning reached Earth. Status report, Olivia demanded. Neptune outpost is under heavy attack, reported her communications officer. Mars colony has sealed their underground shelters. We've lost contact with the mining operation on Ceres. Olivia studied the tactical display. The Nix ships had appeared simultaneously at multiple locations, as if they had been waiting for a signal. Their strategy was clear: divide human forces and prevent any coordinated defense. Captain, called a young lieutenant. We're receiving a transmission from an escape pod approaching Earth orbit. It's Commander Wallace. Minutes later, Eric's face appeared on the main screen. He looked exhausted with burns on one side of his face. Captain Martinez, he said. The situation is worse than we thought. The Council has fallen. The Nix have been planning this for decades, possibly centuries. We're under attack across the system, Olivia replied. What are we facing? They're energy beings that can take physical form. They feed on fear and negative emotions. And they can phase through most solid matter. The screen flickered as another transmission came through. It was Samantha Reed in the second escape pod, with the injured counselor Zaire beside her. Captain, Samantha said urgently, the Nix have a weakness. When the Defiant fought them at Europa, something about your ship disrupted their energy pattern. Olivia's mind raced back to that battle. Our shield frequency? We use a rotating electromagnetic spectrum that's unique to Earth vessels. That must be it, Eric said. None of the Council ships use that technology. The Nix wouldn't have encountered it before. Olivia turned to her tactical officer. Adjust all weapons to emit that same frequency. Send the specifications to every ship and station in the system. As Earth mobilized its defenses, something unexpected happened. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system activated. For decades, humans had been secretly building a fleet that the Council knew nothing about. Earth's visible military had always been deliberately smaller than its actual capacity to avoid frightening the Council. In his modest office on Earth, William Grayson stood up from his desk. For years he had been known as just another diplomat, often overlooked and sometimes mocked in Council meetings for his peaceful approaches. Now he removed his civilian clothes and put on the uniform of the Grand Admiral of Earth's Black Fleet. The Black Fleet consisted of ships built with reverse-engineered alien technology combined with unique human innovations. They had been hidden in the asteroid belt, inside hollowed-out moons and beneath the clouds of the gas giants. All ships report ready, Admiral, said his aide. Grayson nodded. Launch Operation Prometheus. Across the solar system, nearly 300 warships emerged from hiding. They moved to defend human colonies and outposts, their weapons specially tuned to disrupt the Nix energy pattern. At the Neptune outpost, Dr. Karen Douglas worked frantically in her laboratory. As the station's chief scientist, she had been studying energy patterns for years. Now she was trying to develop a weapon that could permanently disrupt the Nix. They're breaking through the outer doors, shouted a security officer. Karen looked up from her work. The outpost staff had formed a makeshift defensive line. People who had been teachers, engineers, and maintenance workers just days before now stood ready to fight with whatever weapons they could find. A dark, shifting form phased through the wall. It was followed by 3 more. The security team fired, but most shots passed through the creatures. Then a blue beam struck one of the Nix. The creature shrieked, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It writhed in what appeared to be pain before retreating back through the wall. Karen turned to see Clarthul, the former council advisor, holding an alien weapon. His blue skin was pale, and he looked weak. Not all council members were deceived, he said, moving to stand beside her. Some of us prepared in secret. Karen pointed to his weapon. That frequency, it's similar to what I've been working on. Clarthul handed her the weapon. Finish your work, Doctor. I will help these humans. Hold the line. For the next hour, the defenders of Neptune Outpost fought desperately. Clarthul showed them how to adjust their weapons to at least slow down the Nix. Meanwhile, Karen worked to amplify the disruptive frequency. Just as their defenses were about to collapse, alarms sounded throughout the station. Multiple ships approaching, announced the station's AI. Earth vessels. Through the viewport, Karen saw sleek black ships appearing from behind Neptune's largest moon. They moved with incredible speed, firing blue energy beams that tore through the Nyx vessels. On the Defiant, now repaired and rejoined with the fleet, Captain Martinez watched the battle unfold. The Nyx had expected easy prey. What they found instead was humanity unleashed. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "Admiral Grayson requests that you lead the defense of the Neptune outpost while the main fleet engages the Nyx at Jupiter." "Acknowledged," Olivia replied. "Set course for Neptune, maximum speed." The Defiant and its escort ships carved a path through the Nyx forces. When they reached the outpost, Olivia led a team to secure the station. She found Karen standing over a modified device, with Clarthul beside her. "Captain," Karen said excitedly, "we've amplified the disruptive frequency. This should do more than just repel them. It should destroy their energy pattern completely." "Can it be adapted to our ship's weapons?" Olivia asked. "Yes, and it can be broadcast as a shield around our colonies." Clarthul looked at the human defenders with new respect. "Your people adapt quickly. In just hours, you've developed defenses that my civilization couldn't create in centuries." "We've had practice," Olivia replied. "Earth has never been a peaceful world. We've fought each other for millennia. We hoped those days were behind us, but we never forgot how to fight when necessary." As they spoke, reports came in from across the solar system. The Black Fleet had engaged the Nyx at every point of attack. Earth's secret weapons and tactics were proving effective against an enemy that had expected helpless prey. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Grayson's flagship led the largest battle. The Nyx had concentrated their forces there, expecting to overwhelm the colony. "Their ships are retreating," reported his tactical officer. Grayson studied the sensor readings. "They're regrouping. This isn't over." On his command screen, he could see feeds from across the solar system. Humanity was fighting back with unexpected strength and coordination. The Nyx, who had conquered countless civilizations through fear and overwhelming force, were facing something new, a species that converted fear into rage and despair into determination. As the first wave of attacks was repelled, Grayson opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Today we defend our home. Tomorrow we take the fight to them." 3 months after the initial Nyx attack, the war had spread across the galaxy. Earth forces, led by Admiral Grayson's Black Fleet, had pushed beyond the solar system. Their mission was to liberate Council worlds and find the Nyx stronghold. On the flagship Freedom, Eric Wallace stood on the bridge beside Admiral Grayson. The main screen showed hundreds of Earth ships joined by vessels from the few alien species who had escaped the Nyx. "Status report on Centauri colony?" Grayson asked. "Dr. Douglas has successfully deployed the disruption field," Eric replied. "The colony is secure. Her new technology is working better than expected." After developing the weapon that could destroy Nyx energy patterns, Karen Douglas had become Earth's most valuable scientist. She now led a team that included engineers from 3 different alien species. "And what about Samantha's mission?" the Admiral asked more quietly. Eric checked his secure tablet. "Her team infiltrated the Rigel system yesterday. If the ancient records are correct, they should find the central Nyx command structure there." Samantha Reed had formed an unlikely alliance with Counselor Zyri and other surviving Council members. While Earth forces fought the visible battles, Samantha's team worked behind enemy lines to gather intelligence. "All ships prepare for jump," Grayson announced. "We're heading to Rigel." The massive fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, using faster-than-light technology that Earth had secretly developed by combining human innovation with elements of alien science. At the edge of the Rigel system, Samantha and her team hid their small ship behind a dead moon. With her were Zyri, 2 other aliens, and 5 human Special Forces soldiers. "The energy readings are strongest from the 4th planet," said Zyri, looking at their scanner. "That must be where they're holding the Council members." Their intelligence suggested that the Nyx had not killed all the Council leaders but had taken some captive. The reason remained unknown, but Samantha had a theory. They need them alive to control the remaining Council forces, she explained. Many species are still following Council orders, not realizing those orders now come from the Nix. The team's ship slipped past Nix patrols using a cloaking device. As they entered the atmosphere of Rigel 4, they saw a massive structure below. It resembled a black crystal, stretching nearly a mile high. "That's not built," whispered one of the soldiers. "That's grown." They landed in a canyon 3 miles from the structure. As they prepared their equipment, Samantha reviewed the plan one last time. "Our mission is to find and free the Council leaders while placing these disruptor beacons around the central chamber," she said, holding up small devices Dr. Douglas had created. "When activated, they should create a field that will prevent the Nix from using their phasing ability." They moved silently toward the crystal fortress. The landscape around it was barren and dark, as if all life had been drained away. As they got closer, they could see thousands of Nix moving in and around the structure, some in Vrax form, others in their natural state, dark, shifting shadows that seemed to absorb light. Using Ziri's knowledge of Council security systems, they bypassed the outer defenses. Inside, the air felt heavy and cold. The walls pulsed with faint blue light like a heartbeat. "This way," Ziri whispered, following her scanner. "The life signs are below us." They descended through narrow passages that seemed to move and change behind them. Twice they had to hide as Nix patrols passed. Samantha noticed that the Nix moved differently here, more solid, more confident in their home territory. Finally, they reached a large chamber deep within the structure. Inside were dozens of containment fields, each holding a Council member. The aliens floated unconscious, connected to machines that glowed with dark energy. "They're feeding on them," Ziri said, her voice breaking. "Not just their bodies, but their emotions, their memories, their authority." While the soldiers placed the disruptor beacons around the chamber, Samantha worked to disable the containment fields. Just as they freed the last Council member, alarms blared throughout the structure. "The fleet has arrived," Samantha said, checking her communicator. "Right on schedule." Above the planet, Admiral Grayson's fleet engaged the Nix defenses. The battle was fierce, with ships exploding into bright flares against the darkness of space. On the Freedom's bridge, Eric watched the tactical display. "Our forces are holding, but those planetary defenses are stronger than we expected." "We need to wait for Samantha's signal," Grayson replied, his eyes fixed on the planet below. In the heart of the Nix fortress, Samantha's team fought to reach the central chamber. The disruptor field prevented the Nix from phasing through walls, but they still outnumbered the rescue team. "There," shouted Ziri, pointing to a massive door ahead. "That's the central chamber." As they fought their way forward, Samantha saw something strange. The Nix were retreating, pulling back from the fight. "They're protecting something," she realized. "Something more important than stopping us." They broke through into the central chamber and stopped in shock. In the middle of the room floated a massive dark entity, much larger than any Nix they had seen. It pulsed with power, tendrils of darkness stretching out to connect with smaller Nix around it. "The Overseer," whispered Ziri. "The ancient text mentioned it, a collective consciousness that controls all Nix." The Overseer turned its attention to them. Unlike the other Nix, it spoke directly into their minds. "Humans," it said, the word dripping with disgust. "Such primitive creatures, so full of emotion. You were to be our greatest feast." Samantha stepped forward. "Why? Why target us specifically?" "Your kind is rare in this galaxy," the Overseer replied. "Most species evolved to suppress emotion, to value logic and order. But humans, you feel everything so deeply. Your fear is more nourishing, your despair more satisfying, and yet here we are," Samantha said. "Not afraid, not in despair, angry." The Overseer seemed to laugh. "Your anger sustains us too." "Does it?" Samantha activated the final disruptor beacon. "Or does it poison you?" The disruptor field expanded, connecting with the beacons they had placed throughout the structure. The Overseer writhed as the field touched it. "Now, Admiral," Samantha shouted into her communicator. In orbit, Grayson gave the order. All ships target the coordinates, fire. Hundreds of ships fired simultaneously, their weapons tuned to the exact frequency that disrupted Nick's energy patterns. The beams converged on the crystal fortress below. The structure cracked, dark energy spilling out like blood. The overseer screamed, a sound that echoed in the minds of everyone in the system. Your emotions? Toxic. It gasped as its form began to dissolve. Like a drug that poisons even as it nourishes. As the fortress collapsed around them, Samantha and her team raced to their ship with the rescued council members. The last thing she saw as they lifted off was the massive crystal structure imploding, taking thousands of Nicks with it. 1 month later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Earth. It was the first meeting of the new Galactic Alliance. With humanity as a founding member, Admiral Grayson addressed the assembly. Humanity never wanted war. We cautioned patience and understanding. We asked for cooperation and received suspicion. When we warned about the storm on the horizon, we were called paranoid. Remember this lesson well. Humans will extend our hands in friendship to all who reciprocate, but those who threaten us, or those we protect, will discover why. For thousands of years, our own histories warned, please don't make us angry. After the session, Eric and Samantha stood on the observation deck of the new Alliance headquarters in Earth orbit. They watched ships from dozens of species working together to rebuild. Zairi joined them, her 4 eyes now clear and bright again. Your species is still frightening, she admitted. But now I understand you can be terrifying because you care so deeply. Eric smiled. That's the thing about humans. We're at our most dangerous when protecting something we love. As they looked out at the stars, a transmission came in from Earth. More colony ships were being prepared. Humanity, no longer constrained by the Council's restrictions, was ready to take its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The species that had been dismissed as too emotional, too unpredictable, and too violent had become the shield that protected all life from ancient darkness. Never again would anyone underestimate the power of human emotion, especially human anger.